Greetings fellow gamers, I'm the Soulsborne Seeker and today I'll be reviewing Beholgar 2, a dark fantasy Metroidvania title developed by Serkan Bakar and released on the 1st of December 2025 for PC. Beholgar 2 is the sequel to the relatively well-received Beholgar and follows the titular barbarian as he goes on a quest to find a legendary sword in order to defeat an ancient Djinn King before he takes over the world. Though the story is completely straightforward and pretty much what you would expect from a game situated within the narrative genre of sword and sorcery, there's a certain respectful honesty about the way that it pays homage to dark fantasy tales of the 80s and 90s that truly spoke to me, bringing to mind classics like Conan the Barbarian and Kull the Conqueror in the best ways possible. When it comes to said fantasy genre, one of its most important aspects has always been that of the setting within which said stories take place, and I'm glad to say that Beholgar 2 truly nails the vibe of an imaginative, grim and unforgiving world that boasts as much grotesque beauty as it does danger. Each biome felt as if it had sprung out of a heavy metal album's cover art, and I mean that as the highest of compliments, with every area giving off a distinct sense of place with the help of numerous environmental details that told stories of their own. Here, special note should go to the visuals, with the incredibly detailed pixel art style and fluid animations being a sight to behold as they brought the setting to life in powerfully vivid ways. Exploring the world of Beholgar 2 was a fun, though fairly by the numbers, endeavor. Collectibles here are divided into 8 categories, namely weapons, Shamaran potions, ammo pouches, rings, crafting material, quest items, ability items, and finally gold pieces. Weapons correspond to a collection of both melee and ranged armaments that you will use in order to wreak havoc upon your enemies. Shamaran potions and ammo pouches increase your health pool and ammo capacity respectively. Rings are automatically equipped once found and provide specific advantages such as increased critical hit chance and health regeneration over time. Crafting materials refer to steel chunks and moonstones you will find, which are then used to upgrade your melee weapons. Quest items correspond to specific objects relevant to the completion of tasks across the world, a few of which are optional missions given to you by NPCs in exchange for rewards. Ability items denote to specific equipment pieces that yield special traversal skills which allow you to navigate the world more efficiently. Finally, gold pieces are the game's currency and are utilized for purchasing rings and enchanting weapons at merchants. The game's map is quite basic and doesn't really offer much in terms of quality of life elements. Aside from marking save points you have activated, you are not able to see anything else, including collectibles, with Beholgar 2 lacking both automatic and manual ways of marking them on the map. Another issue here is the fact that map sections completely open up once you enter a room instead of having some sort of fog that pulls back gradually to show exactly how much of a section you have investigated, which is always problematic in these games since you may think you have explored a specific place when, in fact, you just entered the room, saw that you couldn't proceed at that point in time and then left, making exploration for 100% somewhat problematic. That being said, each biome here is fairly compact and I never actually felt lost nor had any major issue finding all collectibles. Still, it would be great to have some way of knowing the general location of missed collectibles to avoid completion headaches. Navigating the map is quite efficient, courtesy of a nice fast travel system. More specifically, fast traveling occurs via the use of save shrines and features 2 different layers, namely traveling between biomes and traveling between save points within a biome. In essence, revisiting past biomes happens through the direct activation of a save point, but fast traveling within each biome transpires directly from the map overview no matter where you are situated in it, simply by selecting the save point you wish to be teleported to, which was awesome. In terms of platforming, Beholgar 2 did feature some really nice acrobatic segments, though they were definitely on the simpler side of things design-wise. As a matter of fact, the game as a whole felt quite basic as a Metroidvania. While the world was fun to explore, it by no means came off as elaborately designed and, for the most part, followed the persistent map structure of linearity with some added vertical depth, mainly in the form of underground tunnels and caverns. This is not necessarily a bad thing, at least not for me, since I do enjoy the less complex experiences in the genre, but it is important to note that if you're looking for some deep exploration, Beholgar 2 will most likely not scratch that itch. Moving on to combat, this is definitely the game's main event, paying homage to classic arcade action games from the 80s and 90s while managing to avoid the setbacks of that time, resulting in a simple but fun concoction. On a basic level, you are capable of wielding 5 different melee armaments, each one boasting its own advantages and disadvantages relating to damage, range, as well as speed of attack. All weapons can be upgraded through save shrines at the cost of gold in combination with steel or moonstones, depending on which one you're improving. Your arsenal is further enhanced by a series of projectiles, such as throwing axes, spears, and bombs, with their capacity being replenished from enemy drops. In addition, each melee weapon can be enchanted at the blacksmith, empowering it with a special attack that can be activated once your rage bar is filled through fighting, at which point you unleash a whirlwind of hurt. Furthermore, there are several rings you can utilize, some of which you must find while others purchase, that provide some incredibly helpful benefits, including healing over time as well as increasing the damage of your ranged weapons. Your defensive maneuvers are comprised of a block and deflect system, which I never used, as well as a dodge roll, which I loved. Healing is carried out at the aforementioned shrines by saving, though doing so respawns all enemies on the map. Dying doesn't result in any death penalties, and you respawn in the last shrine that you saved, making the perishing process quite forgiving. Overall, combat felt hefty and enjoyable, though I'll admit that not all of the melee weapons were as efficient, which led to me using only 2 out of the 5 in most of my battles, with the spear taking the crown for most useful armament for me. I also didn't find the special attack that effective when compared to the damage dished out by performing regular assaults, which is why I used it on very rare occasions just to spice things up a bit. Boss-wise, things ended up being quite lukewarm, unfortunately. On the positive side, the villains of Beholgar 2 were fantastically designed from a visual perspective, and truly came off as beings that have walked this wretched world since time immemorial. Each one had a certain degree of gravitas that made them appear incredibly formidable, though unfortunately that didn't end up being the case in action. More specifically, the vast majority of them were ridiculously easy to beat, with me ending up facing a minor degree of adversity only when it came to just a couple of them, and even then it wasn't that much of a challenge. Speaking of challenge, the game's overall difficulty is situated on the easier side of things, courtesy of the very forgiving death system, with just a few instances of minor spikes in battle when it came to some of the bosses. As for length, it took me 4 hours to beat Beholgar 2 with nearly 100% completion, with a projected additional hour needed for me to grind the gold to purchase some remaining rings and reach 100%. For a price of about $12, the game is worth a play if the visual design really speaks to you, and especially if you enjoyed games of a similar style from back in the 80s and 90s like I did. But if that's not the case, maybe wait for a sale to try it out. Before we get to the verdict, I do wish to note a few issues I came across, which should be patched in order to elevate the experience, and at this point I also want to give huge props to the developer for working tirelessly to fix every bug and problem reported by the community. First, there was a very specific biome that was plagued by frequent and sudden bursts of frame rate drops, which was quite annoying, though thankfully I only came across said issue in that one biome and mostly when moving between screens. Second, following the latest patch, which shortened the time it was taking to save your progress, the save shrines no longer healed me, at least the ones in the biome I was using to grind gold, so maybe something broke there during the fix. Finally, I think there's an issue with one of the early quests that requires of you to find 5 specific items to complete it, since, as far as I know, I gathered all 5 of them but still see 4 in my inventory, which is keeping me from completing the quest. I even consulted a guide to make sure I had everything and explored the biome in question with a fine-toothed comb as well, so I'm fairly confident this is some sort of issue. In conclusion, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Beholgar 2. I was a sucker for its sword and sorcery vibes, I loved its visual approach and world building, I had a lot of fun with combat and absolutely adored the boss designs. On the downsides, exploration and platforming, while entertaining, were incredibly formulaic, the big bads were for the most part unbelievably easy, the map could have used a couple of quality of life improvements, it would have been nice for the game to have featured some instances that required the use of different weapons, since I ended up going with the spear for most of my journey given its efficiency, and finally, there were the aforementioned technical issues I came across. Beholgar 2 is an entertaining, albeit basic Metroidvania that can definitely offer you a few hours of fun, especially if you have fond memories of playing similar games back in the times of yore. It's by no means a standout title in the genre, but its blade does cut deep enough for you to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. My final verdict on Beholgar 2 is is 6.5 out of 10. What did you think about Beholgar 2? Have you played it yet? Do you agree with the points I mentioned, or do you see things differently? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Soulsborne Seeker out.